Thank you for joining us on the Person to Person Network. Welcome to Profiles in STEM. Our career series will feature an amazing STEM professional who is shaping lives and building the future. I'm your host, Katie Colbert, and joining me today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Kenneth Dale Small. Mr. Small is an operations research study analyst at the U.S. Army Test and Evaluation Command stationed in Fort Hood, Texas. Mr. Small, welcome to our program. Mr. Small, can we step back in time and go back to a particular moment when you first decided to pursue a career in STEM?
Well, after thinking about it for a little bit, that's actually a pretty easy question. I was originally in the Air Force, but after I left the Air Force, I literally got a call out of the blue from a friend of mine that ran a company that was looking for a mathematics major. Now, I'm old enough that ORSA still wasn't a real common term at that time. But since my bachelor in arts was in mathematical modeling and applications, and the company was looking for someone with a degree in mathematics. So I accepted the position and worked as a contractor initially, doing air-to-air combat simulations and, without being too technical, theater level modeling. So you can think of it as playing Risk on steroids, basically. It was a lot of information, and I got to see some really cool things at the very highest levels of the military.
Wow, they do say that time is everything, but wow, air and combat simulations sound very exciting and very strategic. Now, I understand during the course of your career, you have been on both the civilian side as well as the military side. Can you tell me about what first inspired you to go into a career in the military?
Well, the long story, I'll give you the short story of this. Actually, I decided to do that when I was 12 years old. And my guidance counselor at junior high actually showed me a brochure about the United States Air Force Academy. And I said, well, that's really a great idea, but I'd never be able to do it. Fast forward about 4 years, and I actually got a nomination to the Air Force Academy. And for the rest of my junior and senior year, I was walking on clouds because of it. That's the good news. The bad news is I actually came from a small school in southern Indiana. And when I got to the Air Force Academy, suddenly I realized that all these people there were at least as smart and better trained, better educated than I was, and I didn't do so well. So I left the academy, but I still wanted to be in the Air Force. So I went back to my hometown, which is in Bloomington, Indiana, and I started working my way through college and went through ROTC and eventually got my commission as a second lieutenant. And that's when I really started getting stride. Now, if you fast forward from there, after I left the service, I was a contractor doing the same sort of thing, number crunching and displays and all. And I decided that third contract I was on, I was actually working for the Navy. And my supervisor told me that, hey, you know that your contract is not going to be renewed. And I said, well, yeah, okay, I kind of heard that through the grapevine. But she looked at me and said, well, would you like to work for me? And I said, doing what? And she said, doing exactly the same thing you're doing right now. And I said, where do I sign up? So that was Deborah Boline was my supervisor. She was a great person to work for, and I started working in civil service for the Navy. After that, I was actually there for about 10 years or so, 12 years, no, even longer than that, almost 20 years. And the Navy decided to not do away, but relocate the entire section that I was working in. And that would have changed my commute from about 45 minutes to 4 hours. And I said, well, no, that's not going to work. So started looking for another job, a civil service position. And I ended up applying for an ORSA job there at Fort Hood, U.S. Army in Fort Hood in Texas. And I was accepted for that. So I'm now working for Fort Hood at Operational Test Command. As a matter of fact, too bad you can't see that. That's our logo right here. I'm actually out on a test right now that I've managed to carve some time out to talk to you folks. And frankly, I love working at Operational Test Command with the Army. I get to work with some senior officers, at least captains, sergeant first class and above, and they're all very dedicated and very smart. And it's a lot of fun because I get to do analysis of the tests that we do at Operational Test Command. And we do, as we like to say, truth in testing. We're like the, what do I want to call it? The consumer alert, not consumer alerts, consumer reports before the US Army, considering equipment that they want to create, buy, build, or modify. Specifically in my specific part of that is I work on testing equipment that a infantryman would carry, wear, or shoot. So it's if we wear it. Excuse me. Let me try that again. If a soldier wears it, shoots it, or carries it, we test it.
Wow, that's really interesting and cool. And I think it's really awesome that you always knew that you wanted to work in the military. And even after going through some changes, you still stuck with your dream. And it must be very fulfilling to know what an impact your work has on the lives of the brave men and women who serve our country. Since you have been on both the civilian side as well as the military side, I'm sure our viewers are curious to know what are some of the differences between careers in the military versus civilian life?
Well, being in the military can be very stressful, but it can also be very rewarding. Your time, the biggest difference between the military and the civilian life is that your time isn't always your own. You stepping aside from actual combat, you're constantly training, and you learn. Basically, for me, that's a plus and a minus. Yes, you have a lot to do. It can take you away from your family, but by the same token, learning that discipline within the military, I carry that forward. Funny story with that. Something I learned back at the academy was how to eat properly, if you will. Okay, because they serve at the academy, they serve you, the big mess hall and where they eat and all. And I was required as a fourth classman, just our equivalent of a freshman, to take my fork and spoon and lay them at the top of my plate at a 45-degree angle. Now, my wife actually kind of laughs at me a lot of times because I still do that after, 30 plus years. So it's just something that carries you along. Conversely, in civilian life, it allows people to pursue what they want to do on their own. I've been very blessed in being able to take what I learned in the military to make me a better employee as a DA, a Department of the Army civil servant in civilian life.
I am sure the having the experience and habits, like you said with the forks, picked up from the military and having that perspective of being in the military is very invaluable and helps you in your job today. So, Mr. Small,
Yeah.
I see that you have multiple master's degrees in math, aeronautics, and systems engineering. So, what type of academic background do you need as a study analyst?
As a study analyst, what they're looking for primarily is a background in math, and it's not just crunching numbers. It's also learning about how to interpret those numbers. For example, when I actually started doing this ORSA gig, actually as a contractor, I was taking the output from the various models that we use to simulate different situations. Primarily when I was in the Air Force, we were looking at the way that combat could be improved, if you will. A real life example for that I kind of follow on the side is what they're doing with the upgrades for like the A-10. The A-10 is one of the best air-to-ground systems that the Air Force uses, but it's mainly provided as support to the ground forces. The soldiers I was talking about earlier, they love that thing because it makes it makes things disappear when they shoot that big gun they've got on. So I helped to simulate how they do that and how it would be employed.
I think it's really cool how your simulations help out all the people in the military. So let's talk about what you are doing today. You are an operations research study analyst. So without getting too technical, can you tell me more about what you do?
Okay, let me look here. I'm trying to come up with the right really being an ORSA lets you cover a lot of different topics. In my position, the easiest explanation is that I use numbers to document and record test results. Let me give you a real simple example of how that works out. Let's say you're going to buy a new toothbrush, but you only have enough money to buy one of them. So you have to make a decision somehow. What are the kind of things you would look at? Well, how about the bristles? How about the color? How about the cost? That's always a big thing within the civil service world that I live and work in. And another thing you may think about is how long it will last. How long or how will it fit in your hand, the color, the size, etc. As an ORSA, we take all of that information to make an informed decision. And that's really what being an ORSA is about.
Wow, that's very interesting. Thank you so much for breaking it down for us simply. So, without giving away any top secrets and making it real for our audience, can you provide me with an example of the type of research you have conducted in the past?
Actually, probably the best example I can come up with is the first test that I actually got involved with in Operational Test Command. It was called the CSAS system, which stands for the Compact Semi-Automatic Sniper System. Okay, things that we would look at for that particular program was accuracy of the system, the reliability, the effective range, the weight, the ease of handling by the soldier, how a soldier would carry it, integration with different sighting systems and the fit to the soldier. Now, as an ORSA, the accuracy, reliability, weight, and range are actually pretty easy to measure, okay? But the integration of that system with the soldier is a whole different sort of thing to measure. So especially when we put them in what we do in Operational Test Command specifically, is simulate operational scenarios in a controlled environment, and then we get to evaluate how well they can use it. That's really kind of the purpose of what I do with the Operational Test Command.
Wow, that's really amazing work. Thank you for telling us about that. So, Mr. Small, in addition to everything that you do, I also see that you're a mentor for the Salado Eaglebots. Can you tell us about the Eaglebots?
Yes. Okay, the Eaglebots, that happens to be the school that my son is going to be graduating from in a couple of years, but I plan on still mentoring with him. The Eaglebots is a STEM-oriented, student-led organization. We do competitions with robots and work with them, not like battle bots. Okay, we are not battle bots, absolutely not. We actually work to build a robot. We have 6 weeks to design and build a robot, and they have a certain goal that changes every year. And then we go compete in 3 teams at the same time. We call that an alliance. And we compete against 3 other teams that are in another alliance. And then we get points for moving things around, delivering things, shooting balls into hoops, baskets. They've had previous competition where they actually had to build a tower with it. We do some really cool things like design a way that we can actually lift a robot off the ground. I'm going to brag about them a little bit because we were one of only 5 teams in the entire nation that managed to get all 3 of our robots hanging on the bar at once.
Wow, that's very cool and inspirational. I wish I lived in Texas so I could be a part of the Eagle Bots. So, Mr. Small, thank you so much for letting us have a glimpse into your life. It's very interesting. And as a parting thought, is there something you would like to share with our audience as they explore STEM and careers in STEM?
Keep learning and never stop learning. Now is the time to find a skill that you're good at and can enjoy doing. Technology is always moving forward, specifically within the Army. That the equipment's getting harder and harder to, I won't say harder and harder to use, but harder to maintain and just learn about to start with. Technology is always moving forward, and there's always going to be a place for people who know how to crunch numbers and display that and describe that to people that that need to use it.
That's a very important lesson. Thank you for sharing that with our audience. I hope they take it. I would like to thank my guest, Mr. Kenneth Dale Small. It was really great speaking with you today. Thank you so much for spending time with us. And to our viewers, please join us again in 2 weeks for another exciting episode and another remarkable STEM professional. You have been listening to Profiles in STEM. Thank you. Katie Colbert signing off.